I'm not the expert with the editing and deleting all the things, so.
I didn't say I was.
Oh, boy, boy. Jeez. Okay.
Oy vey. Vey and oi.
Oy Careful.
I don't think this is gonna work.
You gotta turn it on. It's a button.
No, I mean, like, I was afraid I was gonna yank that.
Oh! Gravity, physics. Okay then.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay.
It's a thing.
Technical difficulties.
Always. Komm schon, du Stück Scheiße! Anyway.
Alrighty. Bienvenue.
That was German, but okay.
Twilo.
Twilo.
April. Oh. What? Things are happening. Yep.
Oh my god! Holy shit!
Button.
Hey, I'll start recording!
Oh, but you're the shadow. What? That could even help. That light.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah,
All right. Okay, that was
That was an adventure for sure. Lighting, trying to manage lighting.
well, it's practice and more practice.
Well, that wasn't just practice and more. We don't have space. Doesn't matter how much time you try to practice. Like, if something doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Could you imagine if someone was just like, I don't have a lot of space in my house. Maybe I should practice bringing in this giant refrigerator and putting it next to this giant sofa. Maybe if I practice enough, I can defy the rules of physics and spatial logic.
Maybe.
Oh my god.
Well, okay, so that is what it is, and here we are.
What a blast. I mean, as dysfunctional as that was actually really
It was funny.
That's gonna be fun to think back to later.
Uh-huh.
The lights.
The lights.
The lights!
The oy-vayness of
The
it all.
oy-vayness of it all, exactly. So, as you can see, Dad Ravelis, Mind Art by Kyle, is doing much better, which I'm glad. It's always a pleasure to have you in these sorts of interview things.
Always a pleasure to be here. Okay, that's why. Never mind. There's a whole.
He's distracted by lights and things.
Might be.
He's like... Oh, how do I put this? You're like if a moth distracted by a flame had ADHD or some other similar disorder.
Yep. And that's okay.
Oh, yeah, I get it from somewhere, no judgment.
So, yeah, we didn't even talk about what we were going to talk about because we're doing lighting.
We were having a moment.
Issues.
Volumes.
But that's okay. Yeah, well, here we are on a spring day in New England. Rain, snow, sleet,
probably
just,
hail.
Yeah, just very normal weather for spring.
For sure.
Here,
happy days.
good times.
Very good times. I'm only being half joking. I like this kind of weather. I realize a lot of people do not.
It is what it is. That's how it always is.
He's just practicing begrudging acceptance. It's
Yeah,
fine.
if you don't like it, move, right? That's simple.
Just shut up.
Shut up. Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I had to make a last minute change of narrator. Mind Art by Kyle was the narrator. It wasn't going in the direction I wanted it to artistically, so we had to stop. Even if I were going to continue with him as the narrator, there was stuff that I was doing that I wanted to re-record. It needed to be redone. It needed to be scrapped. All those videos are now private. You're not going to see them. They're never going to see the light of day again.
And that's because when he asked me to be narrator, to pick up and choose and make up a voice to use, I picked up a voice that was very hard to work with, making me choke, and
He was nearly dying.
But-
and he's playing a character that's not supposed to die yet.
and being me, how I am, I just thought, oh, this will be easy to do. Wrong! It was an experience. I have to continually remind myself that when it's something I've never done and I think it's easy, it probably isn't easy because I never did voice acting.
Words to live by.
And if
He's also never done Mongolian throat singing, and the voice that he was doing requires a good amount of control over that type of technique. Like that sort of, like he can't do that.
Yeah, so it was a learning experience, I will say that. It's sort of kind of on the same lines of when your sister asked me to take her yoga class, and I thought, oh, this will be simple. Hot yoga, yeah, oh boy, yeah, I was wrong there too, so don't assume.
Were you cracking like a glow stick?
Oh yeah, I was.
Fizzling in the heat?
Yeah, hyperventilating. Oh yeah, I was a mess, so yeah.
What do you mean was?
Oh yeah.
I mean, not to point fingers, it's family resemblance, as we both have issues. It's totally fine. She does too. Oh my god, she has volumes. Love her to
We
death.
all do.
We do, yes.
So anyway, yeah, that's why I am not the narrator, but it was a fun experience. I enjoyed doing it. I did get frustrated somewhat because I needed a lot of direction and instructions with
Yeah.
my pronunciation of things.
He has a very interesting personal dialect for sure. I have a language learning brand, so like language is something I'm very passionate about. I'm very linguistic, lexomancer. He makes the linguist part of my brain go absolutely insane. Not in a bad way, like I'm not mad. I'm just like, what are you?
Yeah,
Why do you do these things? And I'll just analyze the shit out of it linguistically, like dropping verbs, dropping pronouns, which that happens. That's not unique to any one language. And then he does other stuff, and I'm just like, what language is that even indicative to?
Well, yeah. Just love me.
So that covers that.
Yep.
Aside from that sort of struggle, like before we realized that voice wasn't going to work out and we had to go a different creative direction, what was it like doing voice acting? What was the experience like for you?
Right at first, it was very exciting and fun, and I just thought it was going to be a breeze because I figured I would say every word perfectly without needing to redo.
Just looking into the camera like I'm on The Office.
Yeah. So that was not too intelligent on my part, thinking that that's how it was going to work. But it was very amusing hearing myself when you played it back. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, ew, yeah, that's not good at all. And it made me understand what I sound like a bit more, which is completely different from what I hear as I'm
Yes.
talking right now.
And what's crazy is you were doing a voice, so
Yeah,
we don't like the sound of our regular voice when we're not used to it.
right.
And you were doing a voice that you had no control over. So of course you didn't like the way it sounded.
No, and pronunciation of certain letters and vowels was just not working out well. So-
Inconsistent. I had to give him some like dialect coaching in between takes.
oh yeah,
Which is fine. Like that happens actually in real life. If you're doing anything, even if you're in the field, like dialect coaching is a thing.
right,
But that's when there's a specific dialect that you already established you're going to be speaking in.
right.
You were just talking as yourself, so there was only so much help I could give you.
You just love me. So it was fun. It was an experiment. Yeah, the
Case in
experience. I would be willing to try it again, but
for
I
sure.
had such a huge part.
You did.
It was a bit overwhelming at times.
I would never have you be, well, never say never, but like not anytime soon anyway would I have you be narrator.
Right.
That was stupid on my part. I will be sticking to narration parts in the future, and if I ever have someone else who's doing a narration part, I'll be heavily auditioning them, because that is the voice of the story.
Yeah.
If that is off, everything is off.
I wouldn't mind smaller parts here and there.
I could totally see you doing
where
smaller
I
parts.
can do that without such commitment.
Yeah, and I don't mean like smaller as in like you just have like 2 lines, unless like you wanted that.
Yeah.
But like every part is smaller compared to a narrator.
Oh yeah. It was very interesting.
Oh,
very
for sure.
challenging, which I didn't think it would be. Like I thought it was going to be just a breeze and walk through the park.
Well, you used to do like all sorts of different voices for fun when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Or don't. You can resent me. I don't give a shit. But because of that, I thought you would also be able to step into it. I didn't think you'd be like immediately perfect.
Right.
I'm not that kind of delusional.
Right.
I didn't mean that. I realized what I just said compared to what you just said. It's fine. We all have our moments. I'm that kind of delusional other times. I apologize.
Okay.
Just love me.
Yes.
That could just be like you know how like some shows will have like your magic words or like the theme or phrase of the day, like that's ours, just like in rainbow letters of blood, just love me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe edit that in later.
Yeah, so it was challenging, it was fun.
And there was a lot of dysfunction on both of our parts. Like it was not just his fault. Like I gave him a narration port. See, I can't talk today either. I talk good. That's actually grammatically German.
I would not know that. But now I do.
Ich rede gut.
Ah.
That's why that happens sometimes with me. If you're ever wondering, why is he messing up on that word? It's because I have 10 languages and the wires get crossed sometimes and they knot together and sometimes they can't connect. And then there are other times where I'll just be sitting literally in a Spanish-themed dinner at college, like Spanish conversation hour. La hora para la conversación española. Tacos everywhere. And I'm just like, all right, what's the word for well again? And my brain just like, хорошо. And I'm just like, that is Russian, but thanks anyway. That does not help me right now. We're surrounded by tacos. And it's just like, and my brain's like, okay, then you can say yoku. And I'm like, well, that's Japanese. That won't help me right now.
No.
And then my brain just like, well, then f you. I'm going to give you every other language besides Spanish. Make it work. And I'm just like,
yeah, it has to be interesting.
it's fun.
Yep.
Where was I? Just completely went totally off track.
Yeah, we were talking about why I'm not narrating.
Yeah.
And I was going to go into, I do like the voice that you made up for the narrating of the story.
I appreciate that.
Very deep and effective.
It was partially, if I'm going to be honest, it was partially inspired by what you decided, but in a way that was more manageable.
Okay.
And that I could put a character profile onto it.
Oh, that makes sense.
I didn't want it to sound completely different than what you had going on, so when you went deep and gravelly, I also wanted it to be sort of deep and gravelly.
Right.
I just went a different route with how I did it, and I wanted to do it in a way that was easier to control, because that type of vocals is not easy to control no matter who you are. Like, that type of singing takes years of practice to be able to do, and to be able to do it on command for voice acting, like that's a high level thing that you chose to do.
But it was fun.
That's good at least.
Yeah. So
always remember to amuse yourselves well when you're having your dysfunctions. Life is much better that way.
Much better. We came into this without any.
Well, I had some stuff like on my brain that I was going to bring up, and then the issue with the light, and just a few different fiascos of different variations. I should have wrote it down on a notepad. I should have known better. Silly me. I'll do that in the future.
So we're just ad-libbing
here.
Yeah,
we're just ad-libbing, winging it, you know.
So the next story that you are going to be putting on your channel, I can't remember because you're doing so many.
Yeah, why don't we backtrack and come back to that?
Okay.
Why don't we talk about the Romophobias first?
Okay.
So what's interesting about where it is right now is the trader has been revealed, but the story is not done yet. There are still 2 parts left. Why am I holding up 4? There are still 2. Language brain, not math brain. There are still 2 parts left. And part 5 is... Oh boy. I got a little bit emotional writing it. And I said the same thing about part 3, which is the death of Leo.
Yep.
That so far is the saddest.
Very sad.
Part 5 is even sadder than that. Because it also backtracks and it goes down like a dark memory lane type of thing.
Okay.
Because she has to remember how everyone died because she's so scared she can't even remember what she was afraid of.
Oh.
Because everything is terrifying her right now.
Yep.
And because of that, it is a really messed up episode. Well, not episode. It is a really messed up part. And it's really, really sad. And because of that, that's why I'm doing these in-betweens. All of these are very lighthearted and fun.
Yep.
And I'm going to be doing some short horror stories under a minute before I debut that part because it's so sad and I just yanked at your heartstrings in part 3.
You did?
I probably borderline ripped your heart out in part 4.
Mm-hmm.
So as a writer, I don't feel good about just being like, all right, you're sad. Cool. You're sad? Awesome. Here you go. Now die with part 5. So I'm giving you some space in between. I'm giving everybody some space in between.
Perfect.
So we're doing a lot of these really lighthearted ones. And then when I do part 5, I'm going to give you some lighthearted ones before part 6. Part 6, in my opinion, is not sad. Like, there's only one death, and it's not tragic. It's the death of the traitor.
Oh, okay.
That's part 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it kind of is tragic if you know, like, the backstory behind it, but, like, you don't know that yet. You learn that in part 6, and everything is it pieces everything together. It's more badass and debatably scary than it is sad.
Oh, okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, he'll probably tell me I'm wrong. He'll be like, that was really depressing. What are you talking about? It's just as depressing as all the other parts of this story. And I'll just be like, okay, noted, whatever. But just in case that is the case, wow, that was an interesting sentence, but just in case that is the case, I will be putting more more humorous parts after part 5 and after part 6.
Sounds good to me. And then after part 6, that's
the finale. That connects everything together, and you'll learn what this story is connected to other stories that I've released. There are connections that are revealed in part 6. You learn lots of different things. There are so many cliffhangers and like complete plot twists. Plot with a P. Plot twists that will catch you off guard. Some of which maybe you could have been expecting if you're really good at paying attention to detail. Others, there's no way. And I think I counted at least 13, maybe 17, all in part 6.
Oh.
That you're just going to be like, whoa! Like that. We're going to need another one of these after part 6 just to talk about everything that happened.
Okay. Because this story, I don't know if you've talked about it, but it has spin-offs.
It does. I don't know if I talked about that actually. So you don't know, I don't know, we don't know. Consistent. I have no idea, but I'm just going to assume that I didn't. This has spin-offs. This story connects to This story connects to several others. But of the ones that have been published on YouTube and other platforms, my main hub is YouTube. So most of them you'll find there. Others maybe here and there like TikTok, Instagram, whatever. But of the stories that have been published, it connects to Sliced, it connects to the Taffy Man, and it connects to the Taffy Man's Revenge.
And it will connect to others that haven't been.
Mm-hmm. And it will literally connect to everything. It's just, I'm not going to tell you how it connects. You'll learn when you learn.
Huh.
So the short horror stories under a minute connect to everything. When I debut fantasy, that will connect into the horror realm.
Yep.
But the way that I've designed it is if it's not horror, it is also independent from the horror.
Okay.
So if you don't like horror and you're following this channel, you don't have to ever watch the horror to understand the full literary cosmos I've got going on.
Mm-hmm.
It will only enrich it further. You won't be confused, you'll be missing out on details, but not enough to really matter. But if you like horror and you like non-horror and you really want to like, basically like that meme of the person at the board and they have all the tacks and the red string and they're standing in front of it like, oh! Like, this is a conspiracy! Earth is a mystery. The planet Earth is a lie. The gays staged the Earth landing. If you want to go at it that way, like, everything is going to be connected.
That's fun, actually.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I look forward to seeing it.
It's gonna be wild.
It's very cool how you've designed the whole
Thank you.
thing.
Well, part of the reason is I want it to pretty much be able to sustain itself. This idea of Dad Ravelis dark stories and just that type of art medium, I want it to be like, okay, so this story can easily branch out another one. This one can always branch out another one. The reason I did it that way is I want it to create content for me just by me creating the building blocks.
Oh, okay. Right,
so I don't have to put so much thought into it. I'm already laying out the foundation.
Oh, that's perfect.
I still have to put work into it. I'm still the one writing all this. This is all me.
Yeah.
And I get people from time to time to help, for example. But it's all me, the writing and such.
Definitely.
And I'm making my work easier by connecting everything like that. So because of that, I don't get writer's block because everything is connected.
Right. And then
right.
It's nice that you have these little side things that if you choose to go into the background of this part.
Yeah.
And this part.
And everything can be as connected intensely or as non-intensely as I want it to be. So if I come up with an idea and I'm like, oh, this is cool, I can allow that to stand alone for as long as I want it to.
Right.
And I can connect it ever so subtly, like, oh, this story right here is the reason that person got that hat in that story. Like, it can be that minor, or it could be as severe as, whoa, so this story is what caused that person to have to start this ritual. And if it weren't for this story, they would be in a different place right now. Like,
right.
Those are choices that I have.
I like that because you can do the thing where the background story of a character.
Yeah.
Sort of like, I never watched it before, an older movie, 2019, Joker. Gave the background of how he got like that. So I was thinking about your stories that you're going to be able to do that with pretty much everything, which is cool.
I appreciate that. That is definitely the sort of vibe that I'm going for. I want to just have as much control to twist things around as I possibly can. And me as a writer, I'm never going to pull something out of thin air. You're never going to be pissed off by a twist. Like, if I decide that something connects, you as the viewer are going to also be able to see that connection.
Yeah.
You might not be able to see it until I point it out to you or until I give further details with another story, but you're never going to be pissed off by a connection that I make. I'm very meticulous with this stuff. Ask him.
Oh, very, 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 very.
And I can't talk about it just yet because it would be spoilers for part 5 and part 6, but I am so meticulous that even the names that I choose for my characters are not just for no reason. And he knows a little bit about that.
Which is very interesting and fun.
So
artistic also, I feel.
That's one of the ways I like to incorporate my linguistic background into my stories. And now that you know that, if you can figure out what language a character is from, you may or may not be able to figure out some things before other people just by figuring out why that character has the name they have.
You got everybody thinking, which is fun in itself. So I'm very happy how it's going.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm looking forward to being scared by 5 and 6 or pissed off and sad. Or...
Probably all 3.
Yeah, probably.
That's how you've consistently been processing it, which is okay.
Yep.
He's not being held hostage, by the way. I told him if he ever is not wanting to read a story, he just has to tell me. And I won't take offense to it. Same goes for you. Like, if I post something and you're like, oh, I don't like that person's getting their eyes ripped out, I need to stop, I'm not going to take offense to that.
Well, I want to be helpful and follow so that I can understand and be part of, even though I don't like everything, because it really affects different emotions, but I get over it.
He equated it to a bad dream and getting over it after a bad dream.
Yeah, pretty much, you know?
Some of them are like that, I will definitely agree. And what I look for as a consumer is not necessarily what I like writing, because when you're a writer, you have more control. So there's some stuff that I have no problem writing about, but if someone were putting that in front of me as a consumer or as a reader, whatever you want to call yourself, I don't know how I would feel about it. There's some stuff that I've written that I've already put out that it's like, I think this would have scared me away. I don't think I would have given this a chance. Sliced? Mm-hmm. I wrote that, so I know how that turned out.
Right.
But if I saw a story where it's about a bunch of unexplained eldritch horror type supernatural something is making people end themselves via auto-mutilation with a pair of scissors at a specific time of day with no sleep, that is terrifying.
Yeah, but I like to be supportive and I like to look further than what the story is about to see just your techniques and how you're able to get people's emotions involved in when you're hearing about the story, so that's all stuff I look forward to seeing you get better at it every time you post something.
I appreciate that.
So
Thank
it's very,
you.
very exciting.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You talking about that just reminded me, there is an example of like that name significance that I can tell you from Sliced, and it won't be a spoiler, because I just explained that Sliced, like, everyone dies. Like, it's a brutal story. It's still probably one of the tamer ones I've written. One of the more severe that I've published, but one of the tamer ones I've written.
Right.
I've told you some stuff I have planned.
Oh, yeah.
Some stuff he's not looking forward to, which is why I've given him an out. I can't stress that enough. He's not being held hostage. Worst case scenario, if he wants to support, I can give him a summary.
Right.
Same dynamic. If you're like, I don't want to know what happens exactly in this story, but I want a summary so I can connect things, it won't be hard to find a summary. You can probably find at some point a summary of every story in future episodes of Behind the Dark Veil, which is what we do right now.
Right.
But I digress. An example of that significance of name. The detective's name. I'm just making sure this isn't a spoiler. His last name is Mukuro. He is the final person to die as far as narration is concerned in that story. Mukuro is Japanese for corpse.
Okay, then.
So that's an example of how I will use names to tell you things if you understand what language they're from and what they mean.
I like it.
Thank you.
Very, very cool.
Or one that's also not a spoiler. You know well into the beginning of the story that in the Taffy Man, the main character who ends up dying via taffy puller, again, this is not secret, you know at the very beginning, that's not a spoiler. His name is Phineas Gage. There is a significantly historic figure who progressed our understanding of psychology and how the mind works. His name was Phineas Cage.
Oh.
So that is a proper allusion to that reference. Phineas Cage, the real person, got a railroad spike through the prefrontal cortex, which is what taught us that you can live after having certain parts of your brain impaled, because the prefrontal cortex controls emotion and personality. And that's why Phineas Gage, my character, had a personality shift after he got lobotomized with the taffy puller.
Ah, okay.
That is how much thought I put into the names.
Oh, he puts a lot of thought into all of it, actually, because I get to hear how the story's moving along and the explanation as to why it's going that way. There's a lot of detail, a lot of thought and research done when necessary also.
Oh yeah, and then like if you follow me on Instagram, which is same tag, Sky_Ravelis, there's a lot more you'll see because I will post things of like drawings and photo shoots.
Yes.
And if you're following over there, like you can put even more stuff together. Like you can probably figure out who some of the upcoming villains are because you would have seen me debut them after certain photo shoots.
Right. Yep. Which is very cool too.
And there's no other way you would know. So if I do a drawing, it's essentially a teaser. If I release any sort of audio on this platform, it's essentially a cryptic teaser. I connect everything. Nothing that I post is by mere coincidence.
That's good to know. that it all somehow you're gonna have to throw us one of these times and have something completely not connect with anything.
Or like connected with something way into the future.
Yeah.
Oh, I've done that.
Okay.
There's some things that I've posted where it's like, here's a villain idea, and you don't know what that villain idea stands for.
Right.
Like I did one recently where
Yes.
it's like, if you were at the photo shoot, I told you because like you had to understand the concept, you had to pose with me. But when I posted the name of this new guy, which is, what did I call him? Kintsugi Kage, which kintsugi is to repair with gold. It is a form of Japanese culture and art. Something breaks, it just becomes that much more beautiful when you repair it with gold.
Mm-hmm.
And Kage is shadow. So kintsugi, shadow.
Oh.
And that tells you nothing, but also everything.
At the same time, right.
But you don't know anything about that character. So later on, once you learn more about him, you'll go, whoa!
Oh, okay.
That's what his name means!
Yeah, very, very cool. I like it.
Thank you.
How you combine your art and art more so than music, but
The music eventually will potentially connect. The music project is a work in progress. It's going to be a while. There's a reason I haven't like put it forward. I'm just casually mentioning it because you mentioned it. It's not something I'm broadcasting or anything like that. But when that does come to be, that's probably going to be its own separate thing.
nice.
Stuff that I make that is instrumental potentially will be used for future stories. Like I'm composing music for In His Eyes, which that story debatably more f***ed up than sliced. Debatably.
Okay
It's
then.
getting up there. That one's heavily inspired by the idea of, do you know what Shinigami are?
Who?
Shinigami. Okay, fair enough. Shinigami are death gods.
Oh.
And you might have heard that name popularized by the show Death Note.
Not me.
It's fine, not you. Probably you. Not you, it's okay.
Okay.
But Shinigami are death gods. And that concept of that part of Japanese mythology, as well as a little bit of inspiration from Death Note, is the inspiration for that story In His Eyes, which is going to be debuting as the next horror story after the Romophobia's treachery is over.
Oh, okay.
In His Eyes, in summary, and this is the one that he's kind of like, I told him about this already, so I'll try to leave out some of the more gruesome details. In this story, this main character...
Don't tell him too much.
Yeah...
They need some surprises.
They do. Alright, I will give you a very brief spoiler-free synopsis. Thank you for holding me back. I get too excited sometimes. I would have had to edit it out if I were alone. Essentially, the main character is blind. And you know that at the very beginning. But something happens and now he can see. But all the world is crimson and black. And everyone that he looks above their head, he sees the time, date, and way that they're going to die.
Eek.
And if he's around them constantly, that time above their head is essentially a countdown. Oh yeah, I will be playing with that. There will be jump scares. I will literally pause countdowns to make you feel anxious.
Perfect.
It's going to be a fun one. And that one's going to have composed music as well, which is literally the music compositions of... Yeah, I'll say it. Literally the music compositions of Checkmate played backwards because something is severely wrong.
Very cool. Alrighty, I'm looking forward to and also a bit afraid. But that's how it's supposed to be, right?
You can look forward to the ones that are non-horror without fear.
Yep.
I mean, there will be elements that are dark. Like, I do dark art. I mentioned this before. All of it's going to have dark themes. So if you're expecting, like, no blood, you're expecting no demons just because it's not horror. You're expecting it to be, like, all gumdrops and rainbows. No, I'm not that type of writer. I write happy things, but they will all have underlying dark themes. Dark themes.
Gotcha. Yep. Just like I do some dark art, but not to the extent that you do.
Oh no, it's my entire brand. I'm that bitch.
He is.
I am the darkness.
Yeah.
I am a child of the night.
Yeah, mine is more subtle at times, but not always.
Yeah.
Not always.
My definition of subtle is it's like pitch black versus moonlight. You'll never get sunlight from me as far as analogies go. He posts a lot of sunlight. It disgusts me sometimes. Like, he'll be like, what do you think of this one? And I'll be like, I'm not your intended audience.
Yeah, too happy for me.
Too bright.
Yeah,
not enough blood.
Cheerful.
No darkness.
Yeah, but sometimes the ones where I have that and I have the underlying darkness, you like that kind.
I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm not just a miserable person.
Yeah.
I am smile. Like, I am smile. I am happy.
I smile.
I am smile. I English good.